Okay, personal log take three. Hi, welcome back. This is Anabrese, and this video is really about just my own personal journey. And I wanted to share just a little bit of my background and why I'm doing what I'm doing today, which is just sharing some of the lessons and things that I've learned on my awakening consciousness path and journey. So I was 22 years old and I was pursuing a career in music as a singer-songwriter and doing all the things, gigging and going to London, meeting with record companies. And, there was some success, there was some ups, and then there were some downs, and there were probably a lot of disappointments. There would be periods where things would be really exciting and it seemed like things were going to happen, and then there was like, no follow through, and things would just drop in terms of success. But I had also, in my earlier teenage years, I'd always been interested in psychology and, just asking the big questions when I was 12, 14 years old of, why am I here? What is this life really about? And I remember always something that was quite profound was just that I used to stand at the window in my house, my parents' house, and I used to just look out the window and just really be in a sort of meditative phase. And I would just look and say, I'm just going to remember this moment forever and ever, like this exact moment. I'm going to always remember this moment. And then I would go, oh no. And then that moment would pass and I'd say, no, this moment. And then I'd say, no, this moment, this exact moment, I will remember forever and ever. And it's funny because I think that that was also just an early exploration of, this idea of, being able to always be present in this exact moment. But it's not something that you can hold on to or remember. Um, but we only ever have this moment. And I think that was what I realized at that point was just that there can only ever be this moment. Life happens in just, you could say, a series of linear or appearingly linear moments. But there's only ever this exact moment, this exact frame or time frame in this moment at this precise time. Like as you're listening to these words, they're all unfolding in a sort of linearity that we can understand, our brains understand. But consciousness can only really ever be aware of this exact, one thing at a time, I think. Maybe not. Maybe we can be aware of a lot of things, but it seems that life unfolds in a moment to moment to moment to moment to moment basis. And so at that age, I had that realization that there was just this moment and that I was never going to be able to remember the three moments back precisely as I could, be in this moment right now. So, and I remember thinking that, I remember being in the back garden. I was lucky enough to have this beautiful big long back garden, and I loved being in nature, and I spent a lot of time in the trees and playing on a swing up in the back garden. And I felt this connection with nature. And also I remember one moment standing in the garden and having this thought that, oh, I'm going to lead a spiritual life. I'm going to have a spiritual life. And then I thought about becoming a nun and all these kind of things. And I thought, no, it's not about being a nun. I'm just going to live a spiritual life. I just kind of had this intuition, or maybe it was a message, you know. Um, so anyway, that was the earlier, kind of just wondering what life was all about. And it seemed that life had a kind of surrealness to it, surreal reality to it that, and I never really understood school. I never, enjoyed school. And I just used to cry a lot with frustration because I never understood a lot of the logical minded, mathematics and arithmetic, and I used to get very frustrated about that. But anyway, back to being 22, and the main thing that happened for me at that point was I was doing meditation because, again, I was feeling unfulfilled through this journey of, doing music and looking for something deeper and that would, give me this feeling of true happiness and fulfillment. So I was experimenting with meditation and Tai Chi, and then one day I had this really amazing experience in meditation that basically changed my life. So I didn't know what it was at the time, but I did experience like what at the time felt to me, my only understanding at the time was that I've just experienced God. I just felt that this was God. And what it was a kind of Kundalini meditational experience where your whole body is just like in light and sort of orgasmic. And there was this just unity experience of being nothing and being everything all at once, all at the same time. And so that was the experience that I had that changed my life. And then from those moments and the days following that experience, I would go outside and look at a flower, and it was like I was just looking at this flower for the very first time, and everything was just heightened in consciousness. Everything was new, and yeah, so but I didn't know what had happened, and I didn't know how to really integrate the experience. And this kind of bliss lasted for a few months. And then it was followed by the opposite, the complete opposite. So I started having nightmares and just really horrible dreams and really dark thoughts and all this kind of stuff that was very, very disturbing to me, very, very disturbing. And I just didn't feel it was something that I could talk to anyone about, so I didn't tell my parents, who I was living with at the time, and I didn't know what to do about this, all these thoughts and voices and things like that that were quite demonic. and and then one day I realized that I knew in my heart that I was a good person. I knew that I was a good soul and that I only wanted peace and love, and I always treated people with respect, and I never was nasty to anyone. I was a good hearted being, and I knew that that was who I was. And I realized that, well, that's who I am at my core. So all these thoughts are not me, because I don't want to be thinking all these types of thoughts. I do not want to be thinking these types of thoughts. And there was just this realization that I'm not my thoughts. But it was, and that of course was, very enlightening, and, um, gave me a demonstration of what was the kind of dualism or separation. It was like there was me that I knew at the core was love and, beauty, beauty, a good heart, that kind of nature, the true nature. So I knew that that was who I was at the core. And then that these thoughts were not who I was. So basically, that set me on the journey, though, of trying to heal, how to unite again. It was really, I was on a journey of union, self union, doing these movements. I use my hands a lot. So I was on a journey of self union, which took me on the healing path then of exploring Tai Chi. Was one of the first things I did. And then I joined the Brahmins, who were a kind of Indian religion group. And that was very healing for me because it was centered around meditation. And then I learned a lot of knowledge about, the cycles of the world and the different ages, the golden age, and, all these different things that were new to me as well. But I guess I was getting my consciousness and my mind expanded into all these sort of esoteric teachings and knowledge, the Gnostics, the Brahmins. And then I found, a teacher called Barry Long, who was a Australian spiritual teacher, and he was talking about, the truth, the one. He was talking about unity, and he was talking about consciousness and God being our true nature. And that really resonated with me. And so I delved into that teaching and had profound understandings and lessons, which helped me again to integrate these parts of myself that appeared dualistic. It was like there was the mental self, and then there was the meditative, all-knowing nature of just being. And it was a very grounding, down-to-earth teaching for me at that time that helped tremendously. And then I met someone who was going to become my soulmate partner for nearly 20 years, who was also on that journey of self-inquiry. And we went down a road of combining self-inquiry with the detoxification of the body. So we were doing raw foods, macrobiotics. We started macrobiotics and then we went into raw foods, and then understood the energetics of food and the body, and and how that relates to the mind and the thinking and the emotions, and just the holistic system of what it means to be in a human body, but being conscious and awakening in that to that consciousness, to that God state, but at the same time, working with the chemistry and the body. So we were combining those and really understanding how the food and the body was kind of connected with the thinking and the emotions. And so we were learning how to alkalize our bodies and bring calm to the chemistry, which then had a really positive effect on, or a synergistic effect on, being able to harmonize our thoughts and our emotions. But I would say the main thing was the self-inquiry and the truth teachings, consciousness teachings. But the two combined together were extremely powerful and gave me tremendous insight into the understanding of, as I say, human chemistry, and also the elemental aspect. So like Ayurveda, understanding how all of nature is sort of elemental, and how existence on this earth is elemental, and a play of the elements in form. And so I was learning all these different modalities that were just helpful and part of my overall healing and understanding and self-inquiry process. And so this went on for many, many years. And then there was a time when I had an experience where we'd been using the infrared saunas quite a lot, and which is extremely yang. And I was getting all these headaches and really, really sore head. And I ended up feeling like, I remember thinking I was just going to die, that I might have a brain tumor or something, because I was just having this constant headache every day. I didn't realize it was coming from the infrared saunas, just going too extreme in that practice. But the headaches, what they allowed me to do was to disidentify with the pain because it was extremely painful, and I kind of surrendered to the pain. And I was on my bed one day and I just surrendered and I just said, okay, God, if I'm going to die, then just take me, you know. And there was something in that that just obviously gave me a burst of another phase of enlightenment or something. And over the weeks ahead, the headaches disappeared because I realized they were coming from the sauna. So I stopped doing the saunas. But I was left in this complete bliss. I was just like in another level of bliss. And so this was very similar to the first experience that I'd had in my early 20s. And it was like another phase, you know, or another stage of enlightenment and self-realization. And that was my state for about 10 years, actually. So I carried on in that state for about 10 years, and we continued just doing the detoxification and refining different things in the psychology, physically, and emotionally, and also mentally. And then I kind of got to a stage where I felt like I was meant to part ways with this particular individual, and that we had, you know, basically completed our assignment together. So so I left, and then I came to a Scottish island and have been here for about 8 years now. And that enlightenment kind of kept going and going and going. But then 4 years ago, there was a sort of change where I was doing a sort of energetic, shamanic healing type of thing just for the experience of it. And I felt like I kind of lost the enlightenment. But I know that you can never lose what you already are because we are that. It's just that there's different phases. And also my diet changed significantly. So I think that the sofs, the energy, the prana from the living foods was maybe kind of dulled down a bit because I started to eat more cooked food again, and even some processed sweets and foods and things. And so I think that I'm witnessing a change in the energy, but at the same time, there's been enormous expansion again on many different levels, and continued learning and continued integration from other teachings, other teachers that have been significant in the last few years. And also, there was, notably a few years ago, just this calling. There was just this like, oh, okay, it felt like I'd come full circle. And it was like now I was being asked to share, to share what I'd learned, to share my journey, and to teach, you know, the lessons, the insights that could help people basically bring harmony to themselves and find their peace and recognize the divinity within themselves, which is what I think I'm here to initiate or activate now in others. But and there's no attachment to it. There's no identification with it. The identification as a person was dissolved and deconstructed to a degree where there is no sense of, as I say, identification with a self or a person. But on the human relative level, there's still a personality that started developing because after I went through another sort of rebirth cycle a few years ago, more recently, and I seem to go through these waves of feeling like I'm dying, and it's like, oh, you know, I'm going, I'm leaving, and my soul's journey is completed, and then it's like I come through the other end of that again, and there's just another zest for life, and it's like another shift in consciousness, or another kind of rebirth of another different aspects of the self that wants to be expressed through this particular vehicle. So that's my journey in a nutshell. Let's see, 20 minutes. It took me 20 minutes to kind of, and of course that's skimming the surface. And then there's just like so many different things in there to do with caring for pet rats, which I did for 13 years. And there were a lot of life lessons in grief. I've been through a lot of grief due to the death and losses of many, many pets in a more concentrated time, because it was rats and they only live like 2 years at the most. And there was just a constant cycle of grief for about 13 years. But I know that there were amazing lessons within that. And they taught me a lot about life and death and the cycle of life and death, and that there is no death ultimately. And then there was significant loss of mother and then father just 2 years ago, which again has been hugely impactful to do with the consciousness journey that I'm on, and the realizations of, as I say, non-death, that it doesn't really exist, and that connection that I have with the non-physical realm through dreams. I've had this for many, many years as well with the deceased. So I just feel like I do connect with the deceased in my dreams, and especially my parents and animals that have crossed over, but also other non-physical beings and people as well. So I think we're up to date really. So I feel at this point in time, I'm going to close this video shortly, and I just want to thank you for listening all the way through, because this was quite long, and I hope that it was of some benefit, and maybe some of it that you could relate to. Let me know in the comments. And also, if you want me to expand upon anything that I've said, please let me know in the comments, and I could maybe make another video that could go a bit deeper into something that I've touched upon here. So yeah, I think that's it for now. And so my job really, my job or my role, I feel it is just to assist people in their own awakening journey, bringing that 25 years of experience that I've had on the consciousness path, the journey of self-realization, and also the continued just growth and expansion in consciousness. And it never ends. It never ends, because that's what I'm saying. Like, I thought that I was kind of done, at many different times. I'm like, right, that's me, I'm done. And then it was like something else would come in, or some huge catalyst would come in that would really test me at these kind of higher levels of consciousness, to test them, to exercise them, to let me exercise them, basically, to give them a run, and try them out. I think that's what it's like, that life gives us things that we can handle, and that they're so that we can basically put into action what we've learned, the lessons that we've learned up to this point, and we get to test drive what we've learned, in a way, and that we're more than capable of handling, what life brings us, because we wouldn't have attracted it in the first place, because we're vibrational beings. And so, like attracts like, so we attract, catalyst, we attract relationships that we're meant to grow from and learn from. So it's all good, it's all great, it's all part of why we're here. It's just for our growth and our evolution, and that impacts the collective evolution of humanity on the planet as well. So you are important. Each one of us is essential. Each one of us is absolutely essential to planetary awakening, to planetary evolution, to human evolution. Nothing is redundant here. Nothing is redundant, because otherwise, why would it be here? You know, it's all come from the source. It's all come from infinity. It's all come from the Creator. So we're all here for a reason, and to, you know, be that aspect of the Creator that we are, that is completely unique in its expression, in its personality, in its unique combination of astrological influences and elemental influences. So it's that whole combination that you are, and that I am, and that each one of us is. So it's just, you know, it's an amazing creation. So let's just appreciate it and be loving towards one another, because we're not here for very long. We just have a window, and it's like, you know, what do you want to leave on this planet? What footprint do you want to leave? What impression? Because we're impressing outwards into this holographic reality all the time. So what impression do you want to leave here for the rest of humanity and the children and so on? So thank you for listening. I'm sending you love and light, and if you would like private mentoring with me, please check out the link below, and you can reach out to me on Facebook as well. So thank you, and I'm wishing you a wonderful day. Love and light.